Welcome back to my channel, WWE Universe. The walls are closing in, and the man everyone keeps pointing fingers at finally stepped into the light to make a desperate, defiant plea that will scramble everything you thought you knew. Seth, the visionary, Rollins has had enough of being the convenient villain, and in a blistering, emotional segment on Monday Night Raw, he ripped open the curtain on the attacks that have left Rey Mysterio and LA Knight battered, and the entire locker room on edge. What unfolded was not a quiet apology or a simple denial. It was a full-throated counterattack, a repositioning of the narrative, and a challenge to anyone bold enough to keep accusing him. This is not him confessing. This is him striking back with a story that demands attention, and if you care about the truth, or at least the next twist in this wild ride, you need to be part of the conversation. So subscribe, hit the bell, and get ready for the very real possibility that everything you believed up to now is about to change. The atmosphere in the arena was electric with one ugly, insistent idea. After the latest brutal strike by the mystery assailant, every head turned and every accusatory hand pointed at Seth Rollins. The signature moves, the timing, the meticulous brutality, people saw the pattern and drew the obvious conclusion, because when violence follows a familiar choreography, your mind reaches for the most likely author. As the show cut to a commercial break, the screens flashed with a single stark announcement promising that the visionary will speak, and when Raw returned, the ring stood, eerily, empty. The opening chords of his theme rolled through the sound system, but there was no flash of pyrotechnics or theatrical sprint. Instead, Rollins walked down the ramp slowly, not with manic bravado, but with the heavy, drawn expression of a man who has been carrying whispers and stares for far too long. He climbed into the ring, took the microphone with hands that trembled more from fatigue than fear, and looked over an ocean of faces that ranged from skeptical to furious. "I know what you're thinking," he said, and hearing those words without the usual cocky swagger made the crowd lean in, because what followed was raw and surprisingly intimate. He described the head-stopping violence, the pattern that had become synonymous with his in-ring fingerprint, and how easily people connected the dots straight to him. The visionary, the architect, the perfect suspect. He admitted, with a pained shake of his head, that part of him had let the speculation fester. At first, he confessed, he allowed the whispers to sweep around him. Human vanity is a strange thing, and there was a perverse, sick kind of compliment in seeing the precision of those attacks attributed to his choreography. The artistry of a move, the way someone sets up a devastating sequence, there is ego in that, and for a time he let the rumors live because they fed that ego. But then he pivoted from introspection to anger, and it was there that the tone shifted from a man who had been accused to a man who insisted he was being framed. Watching Rey Mysterio being carried from the ring, seeing LA Knight broken over a table, those images landed on him not as praise, but as an accusation that threatened to annihilate more than his reputation. It threatened to erase the work of a career. "This isn't art anymore," Rollins cried out. "This is a framed job." He would not, he vowed, be the canvas upon which some anonymous vandal painted their twisted masterpiece. The intensity in his voice ratcheted up as he leaned into the microphone and into the crowd, and the denial came not as a whisper, but as a shout that filled the arena. He did not assault Rey Mysterio, he did not send LA Knight through that table, and emphatically, he was not the man inside the cage at Survivor Series. The stadium hung on every syllable because he was not merely defending his actions, he was defending his identity. Someone, he claimed, was out there stealing his legacy, mimicking his moves and his persona, and using his signature as a weapon to commit cruel, performative acts of violence while the world watched and assumed the worst. These were not random attacks, he argued. They were carefully staged imitations designed to ruin him, and whoever was responsible was seeking more than to injure. They were attempting to assassinate his character. Then Rollins dropped a bomb that turned the Whisper courtroom into a real hunt. He put the spotlight on Austin Theory, suggesting that the younger star had been hired to play the role of a master forger. It was a move designed to fracture loyalties and stir the pot, to turn allies into suspects and force everyone to reconsider who could pull off such a precise imitation. If you buy Seth's claim of innocence, you have to confront the question he posed. If not him, who could replicate his style so perfectly? That question, he made clear, transformed speculation into a manhunt. Immediately, the narrative thickened. Every casual observer of the drama became an armchair detective. Rollins's call to action was as much about cleaning his name as about igniting investigation. He demanded a thorough analysis of every clue, every scrap of footage, every possible motive, and every potential accomplice. He invited scrutiny rather than fleeing from it. And in doing so, he rewired the conversation. For weeks, fans had filled comment sections, social feeds, and barstool debates with confident accusations stacked like evidence against him. But now they had to weigh a new possibility, a carefully orchestrated campaign to make him the fall guy. The momentum of the segment wasn't just in his words. It was in the theatricality of how he spent them, in the way he turned the arena's suspicion back onto itself. He spoke of legacy, of how he had built his identity through innovation and relentless performance, and how that very identity was now a weapon turned against him. That idea carried an extra sting. When your most recognizable traits are used as a template for criminality, every past triumph flips into potential proof of guilt. Rollins demanded fairness. He refused to be sentenced by rumor and demanded that evidence stand where hearsay had once sat. The more he spoke, the more layers the story gained. He painted a picture of someone so adept at mimicry that they could replicate cadence, the tiniest quirks of posture, the rhythm of his strikes, enough to convince cameras and crowds that they had seen the real thing. The sense of violation was visceral. Rollins made it clear that the theft of style was also a theft of self. The cunning insinuation that Austin Theory might be the hired hand behind the mask of the mystery man forced the audience to reevaluate relationships backstage. Theory, he suggested, had motive and access, and, perhaps most dangerously, he had the ambition and hunger to bend his talents to a darker purpose if someone with the means and motive offered the right price. The accusation was deliciously dramatic but carried consequences. Fans would now be watching every interaction between Theory and other suspects, reconstructing timelines, freeze-framing any moment that might reveal complicity. Rollins, for his part, promised an all-out war to reclaim his narrative. He called for an exhaustive review of footage and a forensic approach to match moves to muscle memory, not mere appearance. He invited pundits, analysts, and fans to parse the tiniest detail, the angle of a forearm, the snap of a wrist, the rhythm of footsteps down the ramp. If the